we talk a little bit about the average length of time that it takes for a family to actually blend. You guys are right on what the statistics say, what the research says is the average is 7 years. You're at 6.5 years. Would you say you've beat the odds, or you feel like you're just there? What would you say?
I would say we beat the odds.
I'd say we crushed those odds.
Awesome. I love that. Why did you crush the odds? Why?
I mean, our intentionality.
Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your step family from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork.
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of step family life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Sean, Stacy, thank you guys so much for being here. We're very excited to have you this morning.
Yes, we are super excited.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So, we're just going to jump right into the conversation. And I wonder, before we get to some of the content, some of the things we want to talk about today, can you just share a little bit about, how long have you been married? How many kids do you have? Whose was whose?
Who belongs to who?
And what were the ages of the kids when you first got married?
Yes.
So how long have you been married?
Yeah, so we have been married 6.5 years, almost 6.5 years.
Okay.
And I brought one kiddo, and Sean brought 3 kiddos.
Okay.
We were engaged for about 4 months, and we dated for about 1.5 years prior to that.
Okay. Great. And how old were each of the kids when you got married?
They were 4, 9,
11 and 13.
13. Yeah, 11 and
4,
13.
9, 11, and 13.
Yeah.
They're at least about to turn that. I mean, close to that.
Yeah, right on.
So now how old are they? Where are we at?
We're at 19, 17, 15, and 10.
Totally different stages.
Yeah, one in college.
Way different stages.
Wow. Okay.
Awesome. Now, here's a really cool thing for those listening about this interaction between the four of us is that you two were actually the first couple that we ever got to coach professionally.
Woohoo!
We were super green. We had no idea what we were doing. And you guys are still married.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I guess we didn't mess it up.
It worked pretty well for us.
Yeah. So it's super cool to just be, let some years go by, and now we get to hang out and have some conversation about that.
The other cool thing is that you guys live here locally, so we run into you and your kids every now and then. We just ran into you, Sean, the other day, and not long ago, you with your daughters, and that was fun.
Yeah.
And so today, we invited Sean and Stacy to come and record this episode in our kitchen.
That's right.
That's why it might sound a little bit different.
Absolutely. Yes, we're enjoying coffee and croissants. And scones and all that good stuff. Now, the other cool thing about you guys in particular is when we first met you, you were still several months from the wedding.
I don't even think we were engaged at that point.
Okay.
I think we were...
Yeah.
We were not engaged yet.
I don't think we were engaged, We were working through stuff, issues, that we had, and I think a mutual friend of ours recommended you to us, somebody who you worked with, I think, at your job at the time. And, and that was a huge blessing for us. So I remember going to Stacy and being like, hey, I think this might be really great.
Yeah, opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what's cool about that is you're thinking ahead. You're saying, okay, we know a wedding is coming. We know blending isn't just all sunshine and roses. And so what do we need to do to get prepared? And I wonder, when you were in that stage, if you could think back to 7+ years ago, what was it that motivated you to even think about getting help?
Well, I remember for me, my parents had been divorced. I had siblings that were divorced, and there was a lot of examples that I saw on what not to do, but not necessarily great examples of what to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was a huge piece of it. Is like, I know what I don't want to do. And there's some clear examples, but what proactive things can we do? We're both personal growth minded people.
Yes.
We have business coaches, and we've both done some counseling and stuff after our divorces. And so we're just proactive in that way.
Which is so amazing, because most couples in the beginning of their relationship, they're in what we call kind of this bliss bubble. Like, oh, we're so in love, what could go wrong? And they don't really want to talk about what might happen or what the challenges might come. So where were you, Stacy? Were you in that bliss bubble, or were you?
I think I was in that bliss bubble, but also like we had just gone through divorces, Sean and I, and a couple of years prior, and we just didn't want to get divorced again. And you don't know what you don't know, right? Until you're actually blended. And so having you guys as the support system was huge.
Yeah, I think I remember one comment I think you made, Stacy, the first time we met you, and you said, we just want to do this right for the kids. We don't want to cause any more damage to the kids. And like you said, you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of, we wanted to just set a really healthy example of a marriage. And that's, obviously when you get divorced, you feel like there's something not going well. And it's not a healthy example for your kids. And so really wanted to come in and have a super healthy example for them, so that it was worth it, if that makes sense, to go through that and to put them through that. And so for me, a big part of it at first was about the kids, but I also feel like what we ended up learning was a lot more than, just blending family. It's also like how to interact with each other in a healthy way.
Sure. That's awesome.
Right. How to build a healthy marriage.
Yeah, for sure. So you started out, with this intentionality. You get coaching and all, we engaged in that for a number of months, actually, as you were heading toward the wedding, and a little bit after as well. If you could just name a few things where you feel like, okay, how did that help us in the blending process? What are some of the primary
Yeah,
things?
because you've got some hindsight now.
Yeah. The biggest thing that we share with everybody is the good cop, bad cop that we learned from you guys. So, if you're good cop as the step parent, you get to say all the good news. And then all the discipline, all the bad cop stuff you do to your bio kids. So I have one bio kid.
You do to your bio
You do to it. So I have one bio kiddo, and she's pretty easy out of the four. And so it's pretty easy for me, and then tougher for Sean.
Yeah. What was that like for you, Sean? So you got 3 kids, and you've got to start navigating like discipline, and there's some different expectations in the home and that kind of thing.
Boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, so the reality of good cop, bad cop is if you're the bad cop all the time, you're going to get almost worn down, just feeling you're fighting every fight. And then on top of that, you end up having those situations where maybe I'm not even bothered by it, but Stacy's bothered by something. And so she comes to me and says, hey, you need to deal with this or this. And now I wouldn't have normally chose that fight, and now I'm choosing a fight on her behalf, which the kids never know that. But I'm choosing that fight with them, and it kind of starts to wear you down and weigh on you pretty heavily. And then I start getting there's a point in time where Stacy would say, can you deal with this or this? And I it caused issues between us.
Right.
Because I'm like, why are we choosing this fight? I mean, and the reality in a standard family is you share in those responsibilities. Like sometimes something that's big to me, I'm going to go after it really aggressively and try to correct it. And something that's to the other side, they might deal with it because it's a big deal to them. And so it just shifted all of that. So it was hard, but it also was by far the best thing that we learned.
Yeah. So many things are still hard. Like we don't get to eliminate all the pain that comes with blending just because we do some coaching or some learning. But we certainly have a purpose behind what we're doing, behind the hard things that we're having to do. and we're trying to build some teamwork, which I know sometimes that's hard, but then other times it's like, okay, we're a parenting partnership. So what does that actually look like? It's challenging.
And one of the struggles couples have that you just described here, Sean, is a lot of the weight fell on you. You have the 3 kids, is a parent who has their kids part-time. So I think yours was, a 50-50 visitation schedule.
Right.
So, during that time that you do have with your kids, which feels really limited, you want to have fun. You don't want to have to be the bad cop all the time. And so, as well as a lot of the weight falling on the bio parent, they also have to be pretty vigilant with this, little limited time, and that can feel like a lot.
What if you hadn't done that? What do you think would have happened?
I can almost say to 100% certainty, because we can see it on the other side sometimes, there wouldn't have been as quick of a connection with the kids, my 3 that I brought to the marriage, and Stacy. I think that would have taken a lot more time. There would have been a lot more resentment along the way. I mean, that's the biggest thing that stands out to me.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely fun to be the fun cop.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you do end up sabotaging the step relationships when that step parent feels like they have to be the bad cop. And when you don't understand the dynamics and have this agreement around how we're going to handle behavior. So that was a big learning curve for you.
That's great.
And really, if the roles were reversed and Stacy had the 3 kids coming in, it would have been even that much more difficult because I am more naturally a disciplinarian. My no means no. And if you want to go with gender roles, that's a lot of times is the case. So for me, it was hard, but I think if the roles were reversed, it would have been really, really difficult for Stacy to always, because that's not her nature. She's not a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
And she would have been pushed to do something that's probably not within her comfort zone.
Yeah. What would you add to that, Stacy? What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree completely. That would have been tough. And I did realize that it was wearing down on you, Sean. So I used to pick every battle. And then I realized you gotta pick them. You gotta pick them. Pick and choose. So everyone's a battle.
If I hear this right, and Stacey, you and I are wired a lot alike, actually, right? But if I hear this right, you're saying, well, I would have been less of a disciplinarian, but in our particular case with Sean's 3 kids, I also wanted to, since he's the one having to fight the battles, go fight that one, go fight that one, go fight that one.
Yeah.
That's your tendency, right?
I think for the first year, it was everything. Yeah. Everything.
Yep.
And now I'm just like, oh, whatever, there's toothpaste on the counter.
Yeah.
Not the
Letting it
go.
Very good.
And it's common for the step parent to notice more than the bio parent
It
does.
is. Yeah.
If a child's given, okay, you can be on your screen for 45 minutes. The bio parent, it's easy for them to kind of just lose track of time, but the step parent is like, oh, it's been 50 minutes. Hey.
Yes.
And I think on top of that, added dynamic was me and the 3 kids moved into Stacy's existing home. And she lives very, very organized. And so labels are out in the fridge and, everything has its place. And then you bring in a group of 3 boys and a tiny girl into this household and you expect them to follow your same rules. And it's just not going to happen very efficiently.
Yeah, I remember that first meeting we asked you guys, what is your biggest concern? And I think that was it. Sean, you had stated, my kids are kind of messy. We're not as organized as Stacy is, and I think we're going to drive her crazy. And we did some troubleshooting, and you guys went to work on that dynamic even before you moved in together.
Yeah, definitely.
You got on that, and that was great. I think that helped.
So good cop, bad cop, meaning bio parent's going to stay in the role of disciplinarian. Step parent is going to try to deliver good news whenever possible so that we can create an environment that allows for connection in the step relationships. That's what you really zoned in on. And I think while not perfect, but you've executed it really well. And so I just want to commend both of you for the intentionality you had behind laying that out.
Thank you.
I'm curious, what else might come to mind as, one or two other core things that really helped from the beginning to get you where
Early
you are?
on, we took one kid a month on a date with just us.
Yeah.
And that really helped us bond with the kids individually.
Love that
Right.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one intentional one-on-one time with the kids.
Tell us about one of those times. Like, what's a memory that pops into your head about one of those dates?
I have a lot of different memories. So there's a little detail to that. So we're intentional. So we set this up with the kids' other households, and we actually got the kid typically on their time, so that we are not leaving the other kids behind and making them feel left out.
Oh, okay.
So we were really intentional about trying to make it work that way.
So
We
you got some cooperation from the other, from your ex-spouses.
Yeah.
Wow,
Okay.
that's
we do
impressive.
have great relationships with our
does help.
exes as we've expressed. So that's really
But
nice.
that's a great strategy because then the other three kids didn't feel like they were being left out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they knew their turn was coming because it was once a month.
Yeah.
We would do that. But the one that stands out by far the most is our oldest was really into Florida Georgia Line, the country music group, and we got tickets. This is like by far the most expensive date night, to be clear, that we've ever done with the kids. But we took him to Vancouver and went to Florida Georgia Line, and he was ecstatic. And
Awesome.
I love that because that really reiterates that message to each child that you're special, you matter.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, it was both of you and one child. Ah, okay.
Yep.
Great. Yeah. And so how receptive, Sean, in the beginning were your kids to this little trio excursion to go to concerts? And I'm imagining flying all over the world.
that only happened once. It didn't never happen. How receptive they were? I would say more times than not, they're very receptive. I think every kid kind of goes through moments where they just think that what they're doing is going to be better, but then every kid always enjoyed that time. And
I remember we took the boys to go see hockey up in Canada, and we took them together, and that wasn't really well received. So we only did that one time. We're like, okay, we're only going to do the dates individual.
Okay, so there was some experimentation.
There was, yes.
Great.
Love that.
Yeah.
Boy, I just imagine how intentional you really have to be to pull that off every month.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then on top of it, one of the strategies we teach is having, one-on-one time with your bio units.
Yeah.
And a story just came to mind that you guys shared with us about you intentionally were mindful about protecting bio time and specifically rituals. So I remember you were describing this ritual Sean had with his three kids of piling everyone into the snuggle chair and how Sean's kids just love this time snuggling with dad in the snuggle chair. They're probably too big for that now.
they still are pretty proactive snugglers.
So college bound kid comes home and is like, sit down, Dad.
Yeah.
Actually, yes.
Awesome. I love that.
235-pound snugglers.
But that had been a really important ritual in your home. And Stacy recognized that and knew that her little one would want to jump in and enjoy time in the snuggle chair with everyone, but also realize that, Sean kids might not appreciate that. They may feel a little put out by, wait, what's she doing in our snuggle chair with our dad? And so for a while, you protected that time and you would distract your child or go do something fun with her while Sean deliberately maintained that ritual. How long did you
I
do
forgot
that?
I did that, actually.
You were
But
strategic. I remember that too. Yeah, you were strategic around
I'm
that.
very aware of what the vibe of the house and what the kids need, and just very in tune of do they need more dad time or do they need more alone time or whatever it is. And so I think probably the first year or so, just being really aware of, okay, my youngest, let's go do this or that or go for a walk or whatever. And she never knew the difference.
Yeah, I mean, even to the degree Stacey would recognize, hey, I think you probably maybe take so-and-so to their game tonight, just you and them, because I think they need time with you. So she was intentional with pushing that quality time for sure.
I'm curious, what kind of, you said you're really in tune with it. What kind of signs did you see? Would you see, a child acting out or shutting down, or did they vocalize? I mean, what?
All of the above.
Yeah, all of the above. And also if they're kind of being drawn more towards me, like being a little bit needier of me. And I'll give them all my attention and love, but, they'll need their dad too. So just noticing if they're acting out or negative self-talk.
So that's huge, because it's easy to get annoyed when kids are acting out, especially your stepkids, right?
Yeah.
So rather than jumping to annoyance and we need to fix this and find out, you were in tune with, maybe they need some dad time.
Yeah.
We did the love language test for the kids.
Oh,
we have a kid one, and 2 of our kids are quality time. And so as soon as one of them's like acting out or just being grumpy, like, Sean, go take a walk with this kid. And they come back with like smiles and giggles and happiness and
Love bank's
love
getting
it.
replenished.
Yeah, that's such an effective strategy too, because you get right in there and give them what they need. Yeah.
And they didn't always go along with it. Sometimes they're like, I don't want to go for a walk. And then you go for a walk, and it's just a chance. I'm thinking our older daughter, like, it was a chance to really like say empowering things to her and encourage her and build her up. So it really paid off.
So when Lily did join in with the snuggle chair, how was that received by your kids?
More times than not, it was totally fine. It was really sometimes an issue for my youngest, because she filled in the role. So it was the oldest 3 kids were my 3 kids coming in, the youngest of them being the girl, and then you bring in a younger girl.
Yeah.
And that is, and they loved on each other like crazy. So it wasn't that, but you could sometimes pick up that jealousy. I remember before we even got married, I think we were up at Whistler, and I was carrying Lily on my shoulders because we were walking a ton, and her legs, she just was like flopping to the ground entirely.
She's little.
And I remember the older daughter was like,
that's not cool.
This is not okay. And she really started to have a tantrum. So we had to stop and have a conversation of, I'm not carrying her because, she's
not being replaced.
More important or anything. I'm purely doing it because you're big and strong, and she's quite a bit smaller, and her legs are exhausted, and it's more about her capability, is not about anything else. So we would just stop and be intentional in those moments.
Yeah, she had lost her role as the youngest and the youngest girl.
She hadn't lost her role, but that's what
she felt.
She felt. But I mean, the flip side is we were always very intentional to make the kids not lose their role.
Yeah.
She got lots of dad time.
That's
never allowed.
Intentionality keeps coming up. I love that.
So great.
I want to move on to something else, but before I do that, Stacey, I want to commend you, and I just want to ask if you have any thoughts or secrets or something that keeps you in this frame of mind that is giving, and being able to say, hey, Sean, it's cool to go spend time with your kids. Often we run into struggles with couples where it feels like, well, we're married now, and so I need to be involved in everything.
They feel left out.
And it's the step parent that actually feels left out, which sometimes we feel that. I know you felt that along the way. But you've also had this capacity to say, I don't need to be present for every little thing. You need to go and do that. What do you think it is in you that allows you to do that?
Well, I'm pretty independent, but I also do want to be involved with everything. So just recognizing that that's what the kid needs and putting that above my need about being involved, and then finding the good in it. So, I can go take a bath now. They're going to be gone for 2 hours at the movie, or I'm going to have alone time, or I'm going to go hang out with a girlfriend. Just kind of turning it into a positive.
And probably realizing that, if the child is struggling acting out, they're going to come back from time with Dad, and there's more peace in the house. So it does benefit you in the long run.
Yes.
To step back.
Yeah.
That's great. And then, Sean, when you're released to go do that without pressure, what does that do for you?
What if you could experience a community that's all about healthy support, guidance, and practical strategies that help you thrive in your blended family? Well, now you can. Blending Together is a supportive community for blended family couples just like you.
Mm-hmm. We've educated and supported hundreds of couples navigating the unique challenges of blending a family. Now we're inviting you to join our community and experience the transformation that awaits you. But you'll need to act fast because we're getting started soon.
Mm-hmm.
Blending Together is not just another community. It's a place where you'll find practical, real-life strategies for building unity as a couple.
And creating more connection as a family.
Experiencing partnership in parenting.
And even dealing with that difficult ex.
Blending Together is a safe, growth-focused space where you get to connect with us and, maybe more importantly, with other blended family couples who truly understand what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Along the way, you'll discover practical tools, guidance, and hope that empower you to find a future full of confidence and connection.
When you join Blending Together, you'll get to hop into a variety of resources like access to our private Facebook group and online learning platform, monthly coaching meetings, monthly Q&As, and you'll even get to vote on the content for our monthly workshops.
Mm-hmm. Blending a family can often leave couples feeling alone or isolated and stuck, and quality support can sometimes be expensive. That's why we're offering you access to all of this at a super low monthly rate, because every blended family deserves the opportunity to thrive, regardless of their budget.
That's right. So join us in the Blending Together community and unlock the secrets to successful blending. Together, we can create a future filled with hope, connection, and peace. But don't wait. Click the link in the show notes now. The doors will be closing on October 8th, and you don't want to miss out on this unique opportunity to create the future you really want alongside other couples who genuinely get it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we can't wait to meet you there.
Like, I really value that time with the kids. I love, like, I've coached them in all sorts of activities, and I find a lot of joy. That's part of, like, I always knew I wanted to have kids, and part of that was just that connection with them and just being silly. It allows me to just be completely ridiculous dad that doesn't have any expectations. So, I mean, my kids will probably say that I have a lot of bad dad jokes, and but yeah, just trying to be silly, because it is a lot of pressure to always be that disciplinarian.
Yeah.
It allows me in those situations to do a lot lot of that.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
that helps
Just
to counterbalance the bad cop when you get that silly dad fun time one-on-one. That's great.
And now what I'm hearing is when you do that well, when you navigate that well and you're each able to play your role and get your time with your kids and that kind of thing, the tension that could exist between you as a couple actually resolves. Yeah. And now you probably have more opportunity to connect as a couple as well, because they don't have jealousies or frustrations or arguments about who can do what and who can't do what. You actually are freed of all of that, which is awesome.
Yeah, that might
absolutely.
be the mindset when you realize Sean needs some time with his kids. Yes, I'm feeling left out, but I know that, we're going to be able to connect, and it's going to lower the tension, so I'm just going to go take a bubble bath.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I love it.
It's a win-win.
It is.
Yeah, for sure.
Win-win-win. The kids win, too.
Well, let's talk a little bit about expectations. So again, we're going to go back in the memory banks and think back about 7.5 years ago. And we just did a couple weeks ago, we did an episode all about expectations, like what's realistic, where do we need to adjust, and that kind of thing. I'm curious, what were each of you kind of expecting in the beginning, and how do you think you might have been impacted by those expectations?
I had such unrealistic expectations.
You're not the only one.
Most of us
It's okay.
do.
And it mostly revolved around just the clean house. Like, I don't understand how toothpaste ends up out of the tube on the counter every single day, or like, the dishes not making it in the dishwasher. And now I just laugh it off. And the shoes used to bother me at the front door, like that big pile of shoes. And now it brings me joy because I can look at it and be like, oh, the kids are home. That means the kids are home.
Sounds like there's been a mindset shift.
There has.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What about
she had the shift with that mindset with me as well, not just the kids. So his drawer's half open every day.
Yeah. Yes. What would you say, Sean? What might have been some expectations in the beginning that needed to be adjusted?
I just thought it'd be a lot easier, just in general, because Stacy and I have a lot more shared values and thought processes, and I just thought it'd be really easy to go into a marriage with her, and everything would just be great.
Yeah. So we're just going to blend. It's going to be easy. There must have been some idea that, well, it might not be perfect because you still reached out for help even before the wedding.
Yeah, there was definitely those things that I knew were going to be issues, like the cleanliness and stuff. I probably wanted you to convince her of some things when I reached out, I imagine, was part of my intent.
I need some people to fix Stacy.
Thanks for being honest about that, Sean.
I'm sure that was part. I mean, I don't remember that thought, but I wouldn't be surprised.
We all have that moment.
We all. I used to have that opinion of counseling, right? Couples counseling. Like, well, for the other person, if they could just fix them,
it'd all be great. Yeah.
Great shape. But now I realize you can only fix yourself. But I think I had just seen a lot of hard divorce situations, and I wanted not just for our relationship, but also how to manage our exes and stuff, and how to have healthy relationship with them. And so I know that's just reality of part of blend family. And in fact, I remember a lot of conversations around that, like Kim's experience of like, oh, it's going well, and suddenly it's not going well. And so preparing a little bit for that. And one of the comments I think that was said at one point in time is like, when you're married to somebody, you don't have much control, but when you're divorced, you don't have any control. And that's going to be a reality of who you're co-parenting with. And so, tools and stuff to deal with that, or more personal tools, like personal thought processes to deal with that, because you can't truly deal with it.
Yeah. And we've helped you along the way with that. You've come back for some tune-ups along the way when you've hit some bumps in the road, which we all do, and you went through our Relate Strong program, which is all about what Sean just said. How do you manage your own emotions? Because you're going to have the wild card. You're going to have the ex that calls and goes off or does something crazy that just throws everyone's world into chaos. And so how do I manage that for myself, regardless of what my partner's doing? And that's a tough place to be. Yeah.
I remember realizing there's going to be things that we do sometimes that upset our exes. And there's going to be sometimes that they do something that upsets us. It's not even intentional, or it might just be a misinterpretation, or the kids many times went back to their mom's house and said, oh, and I get a phone call. Yeah. Well, what are you saying this and that? And I was like, what? That's completely out of context. And so having a perspective of sometimes they're going to say something upsets me. If I don't take it too personal, it's understanding sometimes I'm going to be doing the same thing there. And so just having a lot more grace on the other side that maybe it's not all it is perceived to be.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm wondering, the last time we met with you guys for a session for a tune-up, Stacy, you shared, we asked, how's it going? How are things? You shared that things between you and your stepkids have gotten better because you've become more chill.
Yeah.
Those were your words.
Yeah, I think just with COVID and stuff, I was strung really tight, I guess, before COVID. Mike and I are very similar, just kind of type A, perfectionists, and COVID throws that for, I know. And COVID threw that for a loop. And so I definitely chilled out and not pick every battle, not take everything personal.
What kind of things did you take personal?
If I would ask them to clean a dish and they didn't do it, then I'd be like, that's them being defiant. I would think in my mind, that's them being defiant. And it's not. They just don't want to clean the dish.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They're
now they're just kids.
So reframing some of the things
Yeah.
that were irritating to you.
Yes.
Yeah. And not thinking it's an
Yes.
assault against me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I noticed when Kim asked that question, Sean was like, yeah, he made a face like, absolutely, she's more chill. From your perspective, Sean, what's more chill?
Basically, what Stacy said is what I was kind of thinking along those lines of, she just had such specific expectations, and she came in with one young kid that she had almost had since the day she was born, raising her on her own, and was molding her to be her, a very similar version of her, which she is. And here's these 3 older kids that were certainly not molded to be like that.
Didn't fit that mold.
So what I hear is you're learning to not sweat the small stuff.
Not sweat the small stuff. And I'd also say we were in a season where we had 4 kids in 4 different schools. And we lived in the county, and 3 of the schools were in Bellingham. And we didn't have any drivers at the time. So life was really chaotic.
Yeah.
And we had to sit down and schedule out every pickup, drop off, all of their activities. It was a lot. And so definitely the type A came in handy for that. But it definitely kept me wound tight of just like structure, and kids have to get here and here. And we just don't have that now because one's in college, one is driving, and then we just have 2 that we have to shuttle around. And it seems much easier.
And the driver helps with
And the driver helps, yeah.
I mean, the day that COVID, like the shutdown happened, we had 24 pickups and drop-offs that week to 0 instantly, which allowed us to adjust a little bit. And we had no drivers in the house. We did have Stacy's family was close by and helped us sometimes because literally we'd have 4 spots that we needed to be all at the same time.
And there's only 2 of you. Yep.
Lots of moving parts.
Logistics can be pretty crazy in some of our situations.
So that's definitely helped me chill out. It's just they've grown up.
Yeah.
Life is more chill.
And how has that impacted your relationship with your stepkids?
Good. I mean, I think I've always had a great relationship with them from the get-go. It has ups and downs and ebbs and flows, but I would say I have a great relationship. Like, I consider them my kids. I call them my kids. They're my kiddos. I treat them like they're my kiddos.
Yeah. She's become a little bit more chill also in, like, for a while, if I said my kids and I was only referring to the older 3, sometimes she would take that as, like, Lily. I'm not including Lily as my kids, but that was just, like, more of a lazy way for me to express we had terms like the big 3 is what we call them. The middles was the middle kids. The littles was the 2 youngest kids. So we started developing terms. But I think she started taking some of that stuff a little less personal because she could see, like, of course, the youngest was one of my kids. Do everything with her.
Learning not to add meaning and motive behind each comment and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just for descriptive. A lot of times I'll say, "Oh, my daughter Annika," just so that people understand. Oh, that's hers, but it's not that I'm trying to say, "Well, he's not involved and a dad to her." It's just a descriptive.
So a lot of couples who come, especially early in their journey for support, we talk a little bit about the average length of time that it takes for a family to actually blend. You guys are right on what the statistics say, what the research says is the average is 7 years. You're at 6.5 years. Would you say you've beat the odds, or you feel like you're just there? What would you say?
I would say we beat the odds.
I'd say we crushed those.
Awesome. I love that. Why did you crush the odds?
Why? I mean, our intentionality with coaching with you guys, and anytime we were stuck, coming back and getting help.
Yeah, that's a big, I mean, what that last little bit too is a big deal. It's nothing in life is you do it and you're fixed and everything's going to be great from there. You know, we have reached out to you guys. Last time we reached out to you, we hadn't had a fight or an argument in like 7 months. And then we had one that was, where we ended up had nothing to do with the initial conflict. It was our responses to each other escalated it way beyond.
What's your pain?
Yeah, and just having that ability to reach back out and say, hey, can we sit down and kind of help us work through some of these things? And some of it's just having like a referee to a certain degree, but it's way more than that because it's getting tools.
I would say, just to back up to Mike's question about when did we feel blended, I would say like 2 to 3 years in, we felt blended. And people from the outside looking at our family have said that, oh, we would never have known that you guys are a blended family. Like, you guys seem like a first family. They get confused when my kids call me Stacy. Like, why are they calling you Stacy? Aren't you mom? And I'm like, oh, yeah, stepmom. But,
But because they see you interacting with the kids naturally and then interacting with you, it has the first family feel.
And I just from the outside looking in, and, you know, in the grand scheme of things, in the last 6.5 years, we've really spent a pretty small amount of time actually with you. But as we continue to just run into you in the community and follow your story and understand how things are going for you, I would say that intentionality, I mean, for me, that's like the key word of this whole discussion, is you've been humble enough to say, hey, we don't have it all figured out. So if we don't have it all figured out, let's go and try to learn as much as we can before we run into these stumbling blocks, so that we at least have a strategy and we can try some stuff. And I've watched you guys do that over and over and over again over the last 6.5 years. And I commend you for that. And my gut says that one little thing right there is actually a huge thing that takes this 7-year, research that it takes to blend.
Average.
And your experience is more like 2 or 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Blended family is hard. It can be very hard. And why not make it as easy as possible? And surround yourself by people that can help you.
I mean, we talk about the easy wrong turns blended families make because they just don't know and they just stumble in. And I think you guys really avoided the biggest easy wrong turns. Just the good cop, bad cop strategy. That's not something people generally know about if they haven't been intentional, and the step parent believes that, well, I'm the step parent now, I should be able to discipline and correct, and that can impact those step relationships for years to come. That's one of the biggest contributor to that 7-year plus. Sometimes we meet with couples that have been together for years and years, and that step relationships are still strained because they made that easy wrong turn. And you guys have avoided a lot of those.
Absolutely. Another key thing we learned from you guys that just reminded me is passing the power off. So when the kids were little and Sean would go to work or leave, he'd pass the power to me, letting the kids know, like, hey, Stacy's in charge, listen to her. And so then I was able to be bad cop a little bit more. And the kids have always been great, and they listen for the most part.
Yeah. You guys have done a great job. Really excited for you.
The one other thought I just had about the easy wrong turn. So as you said it, and we kind of talked about this before, but an easy wrong turn, one of the big ones was not coming to the conclusion of the issues you played in your previous marriage and bringing those things with you, because everyone plays a part in it. Like, I've never met a couple that somebody didn't play a part in it, right? And not dealing with those things. Otherwise, you're just going to bring those same issues, whether that could be parenting, that could be just relationally, that could be lots of things. So coming to you and having some of these discussions and dealing with some of our internal struggles and some of the stuff from our past to get us to the point of where we got married, to me, was massive in terms of being able to take ownership in conflict in our current marriage.
Sounds like you pretty quickly went from, okay, Mike and Kim, you need to fix Stacy, to, okay, I guess I got to do a little work on myself too.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of that for sure.
But that's such a good point. Like, there's so many different facets of what we're navigating when we're blending our family. And to your point, Sean, that's one of them, is we've experienced pain.
Yeah.
And when we see something today that even is a slight reflection of the pain that we experienced in that previous relationship, all of a sudden we're attaching meaning and motive to what we see in front of us, when actually this new person doesn't have that same meaning or that same motive as the last person did. And so we've got to rewrite that story.
Yeah.
And you both have been, again, intentional about how do I rewrite that story so that I'm working on what I need to do, and I'm not reacting to something from my past or something that I've been dragging around for a while, so that we can experience partnership and we can experience intimacy and closeness and all of that. Great job.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's an unrealistic expectations lots of us come into, is that, I can just leave my past in the past and start fresh. And oh boy, the past is alive and well in the present. And we've got to deal with it. We've got to face it. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. What a privilege. I mean, thank you for trusting us over the years. We've been so privileged to be able to just, again, follow your story and watch you continue to build closeness. And now you've launched one off to college together.
It's
and
crazy.
I bet that there's some excitement around that, and 3 more on the way. You know, if you just had one thing to say, so you think about this for a moment, to somebody who might be listening, who's struggling in one area or another within their blended family.
Or they're about to become blended.
Yeah.
They're thinking about it.
Yeah. What would be your one thing?
My one thing would be play the long game. Play the long game.
Yeah. Don't get too hung up on these little things of day to day, but what's the long game?
And someday you're going to miss that toothpaste on the counter.
So that's really what's most important.
Yeah.
Love it.
What about for you, Sean? What would be your one thing?
So the one thing for me is, you don't really go about life, like you don't step into a job and just start doing the new expectations that you have. Like, they train you and they work with you, and then you start doing that job. And that's kind of what doing the blended family coaching to me is. It's I have told so many people about you guys, but I tell people that are married, like they're having struggles, like I share a lot of the stuff we've learned from you for their marriage. And I think that it actually should be a prerequisite, is thinking about blending a family, that they would come and talk to a blended family coach.
We agree.
I mean, it's like a drop in the bucket cost wise compared to the therapy that you're going to be going to later. And I would never ever let anyone that I know get into a blended family situation without seeing it.
Well, thanks for that, Sean. So it sounds like, just like any other area of life, we can't expect to begin as an expert. Take this whole blending thing from that same perspective and get the training, get the education, get the understanding, and then set about actually living it. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I mean, why get blindsided later when you can go into it with your eyes wide open and realistic expectations, be prepared.
Absolutely.
And if you can collapse 7 years down to 2 or 3 years, why not?
That's a huge win.
It is absolutely a huge win. Wow.
Yeah.
What a privilege.
And shield your kids from pain. I mean, when you go into it with blinders on or not understanding these dynamics and how they impact the kids, damage can be done. And we don't want that. Kids have been through enough, right?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what a privilege to have you both joining us today. Thank you so much for being willing to have the conversation.
Yeah, we so enjoyed being part of your journey. We're just so thankful for you guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. We're more thankful, I think.
Bigger thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks all around.
If we have to be competitive, I know I'm like super competitive. So,
Fine.
yeah, we're definitely the most.
Well, again, what a privilege it is to just walk the journey.
Absolutely.
And so great to have you join us here in the house
Yes, and
today.
thank you
have
for
this
blessing our
conversation.
listeners with
Absolutely.
all of the
Yeah,
knowledge and wisdom you guys have gleaned in your blend.
We hope it helps.
Yes, I'm sure it will.
Yes.
All right, we're going to make that episode a wrap.
Until next time.